This is Marshall and his mother Alicia. Inside the trunk beside them lies the body of Marshall's girlfriend, Alexis Gabe. Over the next several weeks, small mistakes in Marshall's cover-up would slowly expose the truth, bringing police and eventually the FBI directly to him. But at first, investigators had no idea how close they already were to the crime scene. At 6:30 p.m. in Antioch, California, 24-year-old Alexis Gabe stops at a Chevron gas station. While filling up her car, she gets a message from her boyfriend Marshall asking if she's still coming over. Alexis replies, "I can only come by for a bit." Minutes later, cameras capture Alexis arriving at Marshall's house. What Marshall doesn't know is that Alexis plans to break up with him. 2 hours later, Alexis's car leaves the house, but something is wrong. The vehicle takes a route Alexis never normally uses. 12 minutes later, it pulls into a quiet neighborhood. A masked figure steps out of the driver's seat. The person appears larger than Alexis, with a masculine build. Moments later, Alexis's phone sends one final message: "Did you make it home?" After that, Alexis is never seen again. The next morning, Alexis's sister reports her missing. Officers arrive at the family home and quickly learn something disturbing. Alexis's mother tells police Marshall was the last person to see her alive. Friends had also warned the family that Marshall once threatened to harm Alexis if she ever left him. Police immediately focus on Marshall. When officers arrive at his house, Marshall appears calm and cooperative. He says Alexis came over around 6:38 p.m., stayed for a few hours, then left around 9:00. According to him, she probably went to see her friend Maria afterward. Marshall casually describes the night, saying they watched TV and played video games. His detached attitude immediately stands out to investigators. Before leaving, an officer asks if Alexis could still be inside the house. Marshall awkwardly laughs and says no. Then investigators get a major break. Alexis's abandoned car is found in a residential neighborhood. Inside, officers discover the keys still in the ignition and several personal belongings missing. When investigators analyze the vehicle's infotainment system, they uncover something critical. Just 12 minutes before the car was abandoned, it had been parked at Marshall's house, not at Maria's home like he implied. Marshall is now the primary suspect. The next day, detectives return and ask to search the house. Clearly uncomfortable, Marshall calls his stepfather Leslie, the homeowner, who agrees to let one detective inside. As officers move through the home, Marshall carefully guides them room by room. His bedroom is filthy and cluttered, but nothing immediately stands out. What investigators don't realize is that the attic above them is hiding a horrifying secret. Before leaving, detectives ask Marshall for permission to download the contents of his phone. Surprisingly, he agrees. They also learn something new. Marshall claims his stepfather was home the same night Alexis disappeared. If true, Leslie may know more than he's saying. Marshall follows officers to the station for the phone extraction. During the drive, detectives notice he seems nervous. His car swerves slightly, and something large appears to be blocking part of the rear window. When Marshall arrives, officers ask about the trunk. He immediately becomes uneasy. Inside are blankets, pillows, food containers, and other items. Marshall claims he and Alexis used the car at a drive-in theater. But when officers ask to look further under the blankets, Marshall hesitates. "I don't want you to think I have a dead body in there or anything." The comment instantly raises suspicion. Still, investigators don't yet have enough evidence to arrest him. They complete the phone extraction and let him go. Then the case suddenly stalls. The next day, detectives discover the phone download failed. Almost nothing useful was recovered. So investigators turn their attention to Leslie. But during questioning, Leslie contradicts Marshall's story and says he doesn't remember seeing Alexis at the house that night. Now detectives know someone is lying. Days later, police recover more surveillance footage showing Alexis's car speeding from Marshall's home to the neighborhood where it was abandoned. The masked figure is tracked through nearby cameras for over a mile. Eventually, the figure arrives at Marshall's mother Alicia's house. Investigators are now convinced the person abandoning Alexis's car was Marshall himself. An emergency search warrant is immediately approved. On February 1st, more than a dozen officers raid the house. Marshall and Leslie are gone, but while searching near the laundry room and garage, officers notice a powerful odor that reminds them of decomposition. The smell appears strongest near the attic. Investigators search carefully and discover possible traces of dried blood, cleaning chemicals, and signs something may have been concealed above them. K-9 units are brought in. The dogs repeatedly react near Marshall's bedroom walls leading toward the attic space. But despite multiple searches, investigators still cannot find a body. Even so, detectives now fully believe they are investigating a homicide. Weeks pass without locating Marshall. Investigators begin suspecting his family is helping him hide. But Alexis's family refuses to let the case fade. They organize searches, spread awareness online, and continue pressuring police to keep investigating. Eventually, detectives obtain real-time tracking data connected to Marshall's phone. The signal leads them to Vacaville, California, specifically his sister Ariana's house. Ariana immediately distances herself from Marshall. She tells investigators the relationship had become toxic and admits Marshall seemed more upset about the breakup than Alexis being missing. She also gives detectives a new phone number Marshall may be using. Investigators trace the signal and are shocked when it begins pinging from Alicia Clark's house. Up to this point, Alicia repeatedly claimed she didn't know where Marshall was. Now detectives suspect she's actively helping him. Police raid Alicia's house and recover Marshall's phone hidden upstairs in her closet. Even more disturbing, Alicia appears unusually calm during questioning. She admits she kept Marshall's phone but insists she doesn't know where he is. When detectives ask whether she believes her son could be responsible, Alicia immediately says no. Even as investigators hint at mounting evidence against him, she continues defending Marshall's character. Detectives try appealing to her emotions, explaining Alexis's family still has no answers. Alicia instead suggests Alexis may have been trafficked. Investigators reject the theory almost immediately. Despite hours of questioning, detectives still can't prove Alicia knowingly helped Marshall escape. Worse, forensic analysts discover the recovered phone has been completely wiped clean. Again, investigators are left with almost nothing. Months later, detectives finally obtain surveillance footage from Alicia's property. The footage helps explain how Marshall managed to stay ahead of police for so long. Eventually, tips and travel records lead investigators to an apartment complex in Washington state. On June 1st, more than 4 months after Alexis disappeared, officers surround the apartment to arrest Marshall for murder. They order him to come outside. Instead, Marshall emerges holding a kitchen knife. Police open fire. Marshall dies at the scene. The following day, authorities officially announce Alexis Gabe's case is now being treated as a homicide and confirm Marshall had been charged with her murder shortly before his death. But Alexis's family still doesn't have closure. Months later, a man using a metal detector in the Sierra foothills discovers human remains scattered across a remote area near Jackson Road in Plymouth, California. Dental records later confirm the remains belong to Alexis Gabe. After months of uncertainty, her family finally has answers. To this day, they continued demanding accountability, especially regarding Marshall's relatives, whom they believe helped him avoid capture. But investigators never uncover enough evidence to charge Alicia or any other family member as accomplices. Authorities believe the relationship between Alexis and Marshall had become dangerously toxic. And when Alexis finally decided to leave him, Marshall made one final irreversible decision. If he couldn't have her, no one could.